So I've been on kind of a nostalgia kick lately, and I feel like with my robot building itch, it would be the perfect opportunity for me to build Jimmy Neutron's iconic robot dog, Goddard. And also to answer a very important question. Am I smarter than an 11-year-old? Probably not. Now I know this show is memed on a lot, but like genuinely after not watching it for like 10 years, the animation style is so cursed. Like, why do they look like that? And also like they just kind of shove little like adult jokes in that just go over the kids' heads, but I digress.
And just what do you expect me to do with this piñata stick? You don't answer that.
Let's talk about what makes Goddard, Goddard. Goddard has these corrugated tube-like limbs so that they can extend and compress as well as walk, obviously. Same with his neck, which is very mobile in the show, which then leads to another signature Goddard feature, his plasma brain. I plan on using an actual plasma ball in his brain to achieve this effect. Plus, it makes it really fun to touch. I wanted Goddard to move as much as possible without getting into like walking robot territory because I am not smart enough for that. I'll leave that to Boston Dynamics. But I think I could get him to sit down, stand up, and also design some sort of extending leg mechanisms that I can use to animate that, as well as make his head and neck move. So in order to start modeling, I went looking for reference material. There aren't a lot of good pictures from the show itself, so I found a GameCube model of Goddard from one of the Jimmy Neutron games on the models resource. This was a good base point since I could get a good scale established. Since it is a low poly model though, the shapes are very underdeveloped and rely heavily on the UV maps, so I basically had to start from scratch. Now, while I worked on the 3D model for Goddard, I utilized Opera, the sponsor of this video, to improve my workflow. Opera is a great choice, whether you need to categorize a lot of tabs, like to multitask while you work, or you simply want a better visual experience online. With the Tab Island feature, I'm able to sort all of my reference images for modeling, my electronic components, and future projects. A lot of open tabs tend to stress me out, so being able to sort each topic into a group with a name and color really helps a ton with my workflow. Plus, you can expand and collapse tabs easily. And with tab traces, you also get a visual thanks to this little underscore of which tab you opened most recently, so I can easily find what I had just been looking at without having to dig through search history. The underscore becomes darker the more recent the tab is. Another thing I personally like and use a ton is the split screen feature. I can have up to 4 tabs open at once and look at them at the same time, which is super helpful when I need to look at front, side, and back view reference images. And if you're like me and you need music flowing at all times when you work, Opera has you covered. With their built-in player, you can easily access Spotify or 6 other music streaming services and control your playlist with ease. You can even detach it and move it wherever you want while you work, and it automatically pauses when you watch videos. And if that isn't cool enough, you can also easily access Google services like Gmail or Google Calendars without having to open new tabs. It's right there waiting for you in the sidebar. And honestly, the browser themes are the cherry on top. I've gotten used to this animated theme that plays really nice calming music and has a very satisfying clicking sound when you type, but there are so many to choose from. You can customize the theme you choose as well, from sound effects, animation, light or dark mode, and more. So if you want an optimized workflow and a better browser experience, download Opera today using the link in my description. Thank you to Opera for sponsoring this video. Once I had a model made for Goddard, I had to create mechanisms to control all of the features that I want to include. This is actually where I spent most of my time, since some of these parts were pretty tricky to make functional and also strong enough to hold the weight of his body or his head. For the stretchy legs, the simplest way to achieve this was to create mounts for linear actuators in the body and feet. That way I could just have the legs move in a linear motion. While I was working on this portion though, I realized I would have to find corrugated tubing that looked close enough to Goddard's design. Most corrugated tubing either wasn't closed or was too small. Then I realized, oh yeah, I have 3D printers! So, I bought some purple TPU and I designed some leg tubes that could compress with the linear actuators. I forgot to mention that during the modeling stage, I had scaled the entire model based on a plasma ball size I could find on Amazon. I ended up going with a 5-inch plasma ball, and I took it apart until I just had the control board and the bulb itself. This would be what I used for the brain, and I was just going to extend the wire so that I could run down the neck and into the body. The neck was the biggest issue of all. I ended up referencing a lot of professionally made animatronic methods, especially by Stan Winston, that use cable-driven systems to control necks or tube-like shapes. A lot of animatronics in the industry use this type of method as well for moving smaller lightweight parts. Based on this, I designed a mechanism that used PVC pipes, a wrench bit, and some cables to make sure it could handle the weight of the head and the amount of pulling that the cables would be doing. Then it was time for printing. I printed everything in Polymaker ABS for strength and ease of sanding later on. One by one, pieces finished printing, and I was able to get some tests going. Look at those chompas.
That's so sick.
Just for gits and shiggles. That's my brain.
Oh.
Wait, he's actually really cool. I went through a few different iterations when it came to the corrugated tubing for the legs, since I needed them to compress enough and not put too much pressure on the linear actuators, but also bend in the feet so that he could stay balanced. And so you can have him like sit and the leg bends, or you could have like this one go down and then it could go like that. That's the whole idea.
That's really cool.
Oh my god, it's working. He's huge.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
We're gonna use a linear actuator, or 4 linear actuators. So they're gonna sit in here. I may have to make these legs longer.
Really?
Yeah, because this is like the compressed height.
Oh.
It's just shy of 2 inches per second. It's like 1.2 inches per second.
Yeah, it's decently fast.
It's still like, it's like the full length in 1.5 seconds. I think what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna just get this to move. What I wanna do is use Bot Tango again, which I know I always default to, but it's really easy to use. I quickly redesigned the tubing and I wired up the linear actuators so I could properly give them a try. So basically what I did was I hooked up these guys on mounts, and then I extended this one and then literally just drilled a hole into the foot and mounted the end. So I wanna see if this can handle like pushing the TPU down. I feel like it should be able to. So it's gonna close now. I had to redesign the mounts to hold the linear actuators in a more rigid way. This also meant that I had to tweak the feet mounts for the linear actuators to allow flex. But I finally nailed the perfect combo and Goddard could sit. Then I moved on to the head. I decided to use cob LEDs for the eyes instead of NeoPixels this time, since I had some serious heat issues with NeoPixels in my last build, the Mark 42.
Whoa.
I just wanted super bright LEDs that didn't cause me a ton of issues. It's so bright. Oh my god. Okay, that works. Enough. Then it was time to handle the dreaded neck. I had ordered these wrench fittings and they ended up being a perfect larger scale hinge piece. I just needed something bigger and a bit heavier duty for Goddard, and these did the trick.
It's really cool.
Then all of the mounts were bolted into place and I could start installing cables to test.
Oh, he's really cool.
And then, look at that.
Whoa. He's alive. Ooh. Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh. Oh.
This has a little too much wiggle. Don't like that. If you look over here, they're connected to 2 servos, which will basically control the head movement, solely the head movement. So these 2 cables control the turn, like the left and right turn, and then this guy controls up and down movement. So we have them feeding through the PVC, and then we've got these little clamps here that hold the tubes in place, so the cables can slide through these tubes and create movement. So right now the issue we're having is the head has a little bit of a hard time staying up, and I think it's just a tensioning issue. So when you do this, you can see the head move up a little bit, but also just like small cable adjustments seem to like move the head. It might just be an issue of like the servo arm needing to sit a little bit farther back in order to properly tension the head. But besides that, the turning is like perfect. Like he's got some really good turning movement, and it's just really a subtle movement of the servo. So while this was a decent first test, I realized that the system would not be able to take much more weight due to the flex in the servo mounts and the gaps in between. So I redesigned a more stable mount that pressed against each other, held tighter, and also redesigned the entire body with proper mounting holes and thicker walls for stability. While this was printed, I tested different methods with the old system and just jammed stuff into the gaps to try to keep things stable. And it doesn't work. I also had a really hard time designing a way to move the jaw. We originally were going to use a metal rod with a tab in the middle that would pull the jaw closed, but it put way too much pressure on the servo at all times and honestly just did a bad job.
Ooh.
You have to pull really hard. We ended up getting eyelets and fishing line and discreetly mounted it to the bottom of the jaw. I spring-loaded the side of the jaw as well, so it stayed in a closed position unless the servo pulled on the line to open it. This is just fishing line that we ran through the original cable routing, and I put another one of these eyelets in here just to guide it. And it runs down into this eyelet right here, which pulls the mouth open. We wanted to find a way that the mouth stays closed automatically without having to put like a ton of pressure on the servo. So the servo will only be opening it. which makes this a lot stronger. I then made the bold assumption that the new parts would work, and I started sanding and painting. My buddy TDA Maker Supply just recently made a new chrome paint called Ultralumen that I was really looking forward to trying out on this build, since it would give me an amazing chrome finish. The most important step for this paint though was the prep work, which I of course completely messed up. But honestly, I think you can expect that from someone who acts like this while painting. Okay, back on topic. You need to start with a level and smooth glossy base coat, so I 2K'd a flat black coat, but I was too lazy to clean my HVLP gun and my 2K came out pretty crap and bumpy. It's not terrible in some spots, but this was totally my fault. Regardless, we pressed forward. The Ultralumen went on like magic, literally magic in a bottle. I let it sit for 24 hours and then I applied another 2K clear coat pass, and once that was set up, I taped off details and I painted on this nice matte yellow. And now it was time for final assembly, aka, does this thing I just spent a month and a half on even work? Final assembly took me a solid 4 to 5 hours just due to the intricate gluing and fitting I had to do, which also required a lot of squeezing my hands into weirdly tight spaces. With one final test, I was relieved to find out that my new parts did indeed work.
You look like a dentist.
Open wide.
You have your arm in a bear trap right now.
And now we can finally answer the question of, am I smarter than an 11-year-old? Before we find that out though, I have to get on his level to be able to accurately compare. It's time to become Jimmy. Starting the Jimmying. You can become Jimmy's mom!
I think we grab like a center spike and then we just start like spraying. Why is it not working? And let's see if this stands. I think it might fall, but let go. Oh my god! Oh.
I look like the Grinch!
Oh my god!
This is recording. This deserves to be on video. My hair feels very stiff.
Oh my, wait, let me try to curl it. You like play baseball with your...
It actually looks good.
I know, it's actually pretty decent.
Now that I was rocking the Neutron style, it was time to see how I stack up. So, I don't think I'm quite as smart as this 11-year-old. My Goddard can't fly, and my brain isn't big enough to fit into this hairdo. I actually think I'm slowing down a little when it comes to building animatronics at breakneck speed. I may not have that dog in me lately, but hey, at least I can kind of build one.
That's awesome.